Okay. Yeah, we're live on this. Yes, I see. Yeah, you can start off.
One second. I don't think it's live yet. Hi everyone, my name is Kaveri. I'm a youth leader at EnthuZiastic. We also have with us Anvi.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Anvi, and I'm also a youth leader at EnthuZiastic.
And today we are having an interview at EnthuZiastic Talk where we talk to different people about their skills and passions. Today we are interviewing Jyothi Amma. So would you like to?
Yes, okay.
She teaches executive MBAs as a professor at St. Mary's College of California. She went to some great colleges in India, UK, and the US.
Yeah, and as well as that,
She's also
Jyothi Amma is the co-founder of the US and India chapters of the International Humanistic Management Association. She has also founded the Poetry of Diaspora, which is in Silicon Valley. She has published 3 books and many, many articles.
so hello.
So
So we're gonna start by so we're gonna start by asking you to say a few words about EnthuZiastic and how you became part of EnthuZiastic.
Thank you for that warm introduction, and hello everybody who's watching. I was neighbors with the founders of EnthuZiastic, and I saw them playing in the garden outside and offering yoga classes for kids. I do yoga, so I went outside and said hello, and we became friends.
Very nice.
That's
Okay.
That's always a great way to meet people.
That yeah, that's a great way. Like you just met them and then it started there.
It's amazing that you're part of the community.
Okay, so moving on, a question I wanted to ask you is, why did you choose to become a professor, and like what made you choose that?
Thank you for that question. When I was your age, I wanted to travel a lot. And I had a neighbor who worked as an air hostess. So I thought, oh, if I become an air hostess, I will get to travel everywhere. That's what I wanted to be. But by the time I finished college, computers were becoming a new thing. And I said, I want to learn about computers. So I actually started my career as a computer programmer. And programming computers and being good at it brought me to Silicon Valley. And after living here for a while, I got bored with computers because once you know how to program one, you can program the others, and it wasn't challenging enough. So I went back to school at Stanford and became a strategy consultant. That was my second career. And I traveled the world as a strategy consultant, and my clients, big companies and managers in big companies, would say to me, you explain things very well. This complicated probability model that seems really hard seems easy when you explain it. You should be a teacher. And I used to say, why would I want to be a teacher? I've spent enough time in school. I don't want to be in school anymore. And then I became a mother. And then I realized it would be nice to have a job where I have the same school hours and the summers off as my son, so we can be together more. So that's when I switched and I became a professor because people had told me that I would be good at it. So this is my third career.
Wow.
Wow. So you said you went to Stanford. Tell us about that and how the experience was.
It was the best experience of my life in an educational institution because when I was growing up, I first went to school in India, where the emphasis was on getting good grades in exams. And you had exams once a year. So you could goof off for 11 months of the year, study for 1 month, and still do really well if you were bright. And that's how I studied for the first several years of my college life. But going back to school at Stanford, I realized you have to study every week. They have tests every week. There is no big final. And if you miss 1 week, you fall behind and you can't catch up. So I learned to study properly at Stanford. And then the other thing I really liked was that I was in the engineering school, but if I wanted, I could take a class in the music school, I could take a class in the business school, I could take a class on democracy or history. As long as I did the major courses in the engineering school that were required for my degree, I could combine other subjects. And being a curious person, I loved that. I loved the freedom to choose whatever course I want to study. So I loved
Yeah, you
going to
must have
school.
learned. Yeah, you must have learned more, like more than just the subject you went for, and that
Right.
must have so much.
Yeah, like
And I think
you
that's
learned,
so.
I'm pretty sure you had a lot of social interactions and and not because so basically not only the academic stuff.
Yes, my favorite memory of Stanford is going to swim every day in the lunch break, and the pool is Olympic-sized pool. So it was wonderful.
Wow. So you had magical experience, sounds like.
It was hard. I worked very hard, but it was rewarding.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
the fun of that, really.
yeah,
Sounds
like
like.
you'll always get a good result like if you work hard.
Looks, yeah. Okay, so now we've talked a little bit about your past. We want to talk about today, and we're obviously having to have this virtually. So what's the hardest part about working virtually? And what's the easiest for you?
The hardest part is not meeting people, because when you meet a person, you get to see everything about them and you connect at a different level. Whereas remotely, you only see them from the neck up, and the connection is not a full experience, which I was used to having. Um, and as a teacher, managing a classroom, a physical classroom, is much more fun because I can do fun exercises with them and have them walk around. If the energy gets low, I say, let's take a break, go out for 10 minutes. We have a beautiful campus, but I can't do all that. So that's the hardest part. The fun part is no driving, no commute.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're also going to school, and I definitely, even though you're a teacher and or a different point of view, I definitely agree with you on both parts. Going to school virtually, it's definitely hard because going to school on a physical level, we had to have so much fun in the classroom versus what we're doing online, obviously.
Yeah, like you
And
gotta
the
like
easiest,
yeah, can I say? Okay, so I was gonna say that also when you're in a classroom, you gotta like put hands on. You gotta, I guess you also gotta learn more, and because like talking about virtually, then you don't really sometimes you can't really learn that well like compared to actual in-person school.
Right.
yeah, and I definitely related to my parents driving me to school every day.
Yeah,
That's
it was really fun.
getting up early, logging in is much easier.
Yes.
It's harder to make friends with your classmates.
Yeah, definitely. It's really
Yeah.
hard to communicate with our classmates and things like
Can't
that.
go to lunch with them.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
Okay. Now, I also wanted to bring this topic up. You have accomplished so much and like have experienced many different fields. So, what advice would you give people who want to start teaching or start an association about something they are passionate about?
That's a good question. I'll have to think about that. I usually do not give people advice. I usually just ask them, what are you interested in? And I listen. And when you pay attention, by the way they speak, you can tell something that they're really excited about. It comes through in the tone of the voice, something that they're just saying because they think you want to be, want them to be saying that. So I encourage people to discover their own interest. My advice would be surround yourself with good people. The only reason I managed to start the organizations was because my colleagues collaborated with me and they all wanted to be doing this. And when a group of people agree, then you can build things together, which you can't build alone.
Yeah, definitely. You were talking about how a lot of times you listen, and that's also true. Sometimes that can be good advice, just to listen to someone and see what they're saying. But definitely what you said after that, that's extremely true.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
that could make a big change to your future.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So my next question is, how do you include your career in your everyday life?
Say the question again. What about my everyday life?
Yeah, so how do you include your career in your everyday life?
I don't, I mean, I've done this for 15 years now, and professors
Essentially.
basically have to know what they profess before they become professors. So I got my PhD at London Business School. And during that process, I figured out what was important to me. So I don't make the separation between my everyday life and my work life. They're very tightly together,
Mm,
very
yeah,
well aligned with my values. I don't feel I have to go to work. I feel lucky that I get paid to do what I do.
Yeah,
yeah,
that is very true.
yeah. It's fun to meet someone who loves their work so much, and you've made it a part of your life and your everyday life, really.
Mhm. Okay, so now we're gonna get into the topic of your hobbies and your
And your passions and
yeah. So other than being a professor, what are a few things that you do in your free time when you have some hobbies or interests?
That's, I have more hobbies than I can keep on top of. I already
definitely
mentioned
relate.
that I love swimming. So at Stanford, I used to go swim. These days, I don't swim because I don't want to be in places that are too crowded. So I have a walk that I do every day right by the bay. I like being out in nature and I like exercise. I love reading, as you might guess from my choice of background. Poetry. I founded the Poetry of Diaspora in Silicon Valley because I love poems, and we gather and read poetry to each other. I have dabbled a little bit in sewing and painting.
So those are great. Yeah.
Yeah, I love painting. I do a lot of painting. I also love reading. In fact, I know you can't see, but I have my whole selection of favorite books here. So yeah, love. So what are your favorite books? You talked about your love for reading. So what are your favorite books? And what books do you recommend to others?
So to get introduced to poetry, Shel Silverstein, Dr. Seuss. It's a children's book, but it's also an adult's book because it's funny and very creative. The drawings and sketches are wonderful.
Yeah.
And a poet called Ogden Nash. He has a lot of humor poems that are really fun. I like that. My favorite one, which I teach even to 4-year-olds, is I don't like eels except as meals.
Yeah.
That's funny. But yeah, thank you for sharing. Definitely, I think I will try and read some of those.
Yeah, they look very interesting and
If you
cute.
like science fiction, Asimov is very good as well.
So what's
Isaac Asimov. I used to
interesting?
love reading science fiction.
I have just entered my science fiction phase, so I would try those out.
Yeah, me too. Okay. So yeah. So also still in the poetry topic, what do you like most about poetry and like how does it inspire you?
Do you watch Bollywood movies?
Yes, a lot. Yeah.
Yes, both of us watch a lot.
You know that all movies in India have songs and
Mhm.
dance. Most of the movies made in Hollywood don't have that. If they have songs, they call them musicals.
Mhm.
But for Hindi cinema or all cinema from India, if there are no songs or music, you don't get satisfaction.
Yeah.
So the songs, some of the lyrics of the old movie songs in particular are like poetry.
Mhm.
And the lyricists are poets. Kaifi Azmi, Javed Akhtar, Irshad Kamil. They write beautiful poetry.
Mhm.
And so it's in our blood. We are an oral culture that grew up with the most ancient texts in the world are the Vedas. They're written in verse. Yoga Sutra is written in verse. Um, they were memorized before they were ever written down. They're called Shruti texts, which means you memorize them and listen to them. And it's easier to remember things when they're musical, just as you learned your alphabet in a sing-song way. So poetry is in the blood for all Indians. And what I like about poetry is the same poem can mean one thing on one day, and you read it on a different day in a different mood with different friends, and it'll mean a completely different thing. It invites the reader to use their imagination and make sense of what's in between the words and in between the lines. And that's a nice, interesting, delicious challenge and a fun way to see the power of the words. And if you didn't see the young poet who spoke at the inauguration of the president recently, you should definitely watch that video.
Oh, yeah.
Amanda Gorman was brilliant.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I have seen it, and the poetry, I get so inspired by it. Like, I love it too. Yeah.
yeah,
And
she
yeah,
tried to audition for Nala's role in The Lion King. And she has a talk about how on the Moth Radio Hour about how that audition went. That's a fun one. You might like to. It's not
Yeah.
a poem, it's a story of her audition.
Yeah. I remember reading about what you were saying, how the same poem can mean different things. I remember reading about that, and I think that, yeah, I definitely connect to that and understand what that
Yeah.
said. Um, so, how are you keeping yourself entertained during the pandemic? And what would you suggest for others?
I am overworked um, because teachers are essential workers these days. So I don't have a lot of time for any entertainment at all. In fact, just yesterday, I was telling my friend that everybody I know has been watching movies and Netflix and series. And in this entire time since last March, I haven't seen one film, one series. At best, I'll watch like a 10-minute comedy clip on YouTube, and then I have to go back to work. Um, so that's not a good thing. But creative activity is what I recommend for people to do. And creativity can be in any form: build something, draw, paint, sketch, cook, garden. Um, you know, creativity has a way of bringing out what's within us and allowing us to express it in ways that are not just words, but in, how you choose your colors and what you draw and how, and then you can spread the joy by sharing it with others too. I have a friend who knits caps and she knits socks for people. And it's wonderful to have a handmade gift by a friend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is definitely. So you said that you talked a little about cooking. So do you have some sort of favorite food?
Dosa.
Oh, yeah.
So I love South Indian food a lot.
Yeah, I love like that Indian food is my life. Like, so
Yeah. I like South Indian food a lot. And yeah, dosa is definitely one of, yeah.
okay.
Dosa and brownies.
Mm,
Do you like baking?
I love baking, yes.
And what about desserts?
Sorry, what?
And what about desserts?
Um, anything sweet is always good.
Wow.
Definitely. Same here.
Sugar is my poison of choice, as I say. It's not good for me, but
In fact, I have a jar that says my poison, my pick your poison, it says. And I keep all my candies in there.
Yeah. So do you have a favorite food to cook as well?
favorite what?
A
Food to
favorite
cook.
food to cook?
I could not understand because both of you said it together.
Oh,
Oh.
sorry. Okay, I'll just say it. So do you have a favorite food to cook?
Oh, to cook. I guess brownies.
Yeah, so that's your favorite food and you also cook that. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so coming on to the last questions, I would like to, so let's switch gears and kind of like talk about the current situation we are in right now, unfortunately. But now I would like to hear your point of view about the pandemic and its impacts on you and your career.
That's a big question.
Yeah.
So the biggest impact is I can't travel. So I miss family that I would have otherwise gone to visit and see. Uh, but then I get to meet new people like you who I would have not met otherwise. So there's a different side to every coin. Everything that's a positive has a negative. Everything that's negative also has a positive. On my work, as I said, there is a lot more work. As a teacher, you have to care for everybody in the classroom. And whatever else is going on in their life, whether they have roommates, whether they're housebound, whether they have an illness in the family, or if they've lost their job, are things that will stress my students out. They're adult working students, and they're juggling families and work and school. So I feel that in my role as a caregiver in the class, the demands are higher and I cannot hold them to the same standard. So it's a big shift in being more compassionate and patient. Earlier, I used to say, well, if your assignment is late, you get no credit. But now I have to be a little more lenient about that and say, okay, why was it late, to make sure they are able to do it and they have the place and the time and not other demands on them. So it's a big change. And for the college as well, it's a big change because we don't get as much money from the usual things because students are not on campus. We can't get as much rent from the dorm rooms. We can't sell the food to raise the money. So if there's no money for the college, how will they pay us?
Yeah.
So that's going to be an ongoing discussion and will have to be figured out. Luckily, I don't have to run the budget. I just have to run the classroom.
Yeah.
But we've taken a salary cut at a time where work has gone up and income has gone down. Not a very happy place to be as a society. We need to reprioritize and maybe not spend so much on the army and on fighting wars overseas and building infrastructure here and making sure the essential workers are well provided for.
Yeah. Going out of this, we're going to be learning a lot, and hopefully things will be able to change and we will be able to change.
I
And
hope
yeah.
so too.
Yeah.
So now that we're coming to the conclusion of our talk, I would like to ask you about a little bit about the enthusiastic community and your message you want to share with them.
It's a wonderful community. Keep doing what you're doing. It's wonderful to see the youth leaders, and that this was such a good experience to meet you and the way you conducted the interview and introduced yourselves and ran it. Very proud of you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing so much with us. And thank you. We learned so much, and hopefully all our viewers enjoyed. Thank you. Thank you to the viewers
Thank
for
you.
watching.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Andy.
much.
Thank you, Kaveri. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.